Yeah, I actually came across this video myself. It was a very emotional. I came across a TikTok. It was very emotional, and it like really resonated with me. I don't specifically remember it, but I want to watch this video. It's a soft one Underbelly video. It's about a guy named Tim. So let's get this going. Oh, I don't have it on the screen. I'm so stupid. I'm sorry, guys. Over a
Always
moment.
work for.
I'll just
All
restart
right,
the
Tim.
video.
Tim, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
Okay.
I mean, originally, I was born in New York on vacation.
On vacation.
I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. Basically, my parents were upper middle class. My mom was a pastor. My dad had he had the thought that anything in his pocket was his, so he just spent it. He owned restaurants and clubs and different all that jazz. He liked the showboat.
How would you describe your childhood?
My childhood was okay. I got everything I needed and most of what I wanted. But my grandfather always instilled ethic into me. Always work for what you get, and anything that comes, any good in life that comes to you, it comes at a price.
That's true. That's definitely true. You know, it's like the same thing as no good deed goes unpunished kind of a thing, you know? Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be so tough, man. If you have like a lot of resources and you have like money and stuff, like how do you instill that struggle in your kid that like helps them grow as a person? Because you really do need to you need to go through stress to grow. I mean, that's the same thing as like working out. When you lift weights, like you're putting your body under stress and then you're growing because you recover from that stress stronger. Obviously, you don't want to have too much stress in your life because if you can't overcome the stress, it's not good, but you need enough stress that you can overcome to grow. And so like what happens if your kid grows up like really entitled? They lose their ability to like which and I don't know this guy, but maybe his struggles with like addiction could come from the fact that he grew up and he didn't necessarily struggle a lot. So then like when it came to coping with additional struggles as he got older, I don't really know. It's just something to really it's something that something I think about, man. You know?
No matter what it is, there's always a price on everything. So I mean, it was pretty good. I worked in my grandfather's business, my parents' business, all through childhood.
How far did you go in school?
I signed. I went into 10th grade and signed out of it. Just signed in, went to college, graduated by the time I was 17.
From college?
Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
Where'd you go to school?
UT, University of Texas.
Oh.
Did my graduate work at
Interesting. I know that it was more normal for people to like not finish school back in the day. And my mom worked with a guy who like dropped out of like 10th grade or something. You know, it's very interesting. It's actually surprising. When I was younger, it was much more normal for people to not finish high school. Not super normal, but it was much more normal. You know, it was much more. It's so different now. You know, now you can't even get like a job sometimes without having like a fucking master's degree, and then you'll start making like nothing a year, like 30 fucking K a year. You know. Oh, it's something, man.
See,
What kind of work did you do as an adult?
I mean, I'm an executive chef.
Interesting.
I've always done cooking and a lot of advocate work. It's funny because I did a lot of advocate work, and one of my pets was homelessness, and turns out here I am.
Damn.
But it's been a long road. I started when I was early. I was out on the streets when I was 15. Basically, I opened my first business when I was 13 with a friend of mine.
How were you on the streets at such a young age, but going to college?
Just
A good question.
parents. I didn't live at home, and I went out on the streets and just.
Your parents paid for your schooling?
I paid for it. Like I said.
Interesting. I'm getting a look because he did say that he had like pretty good parents where he get whatever he wanted, and then I got like the wrong idea about him. It seems like he's trying to struggle a lot more than I thought.
My grandfather instilled a work ethic, and I started my first business at 13, and it paid through everything I did. I was I'm on both sides of I'm kind of a walking contradiction. I'm either doing real well or real bad. It's always to the extreme. My whole life's been to the extremes.
You told me you've done some prison time.
Yeah, quite a lot of it.
Tell me about that.
Someone molested my kid.
Jesus.
4 people did. and I kind of got crazy. I snapped. I killed 3 people. And went after the 4th. I was trying to go out suicide by cop. I didn't see no reason to live anymore. I taunted LAPD into gunfires. I got lucky, I guess. After 6 months of this and chasing the 4th one down and taunting LAPD, it got crazy.
So you got
Damn, man. That's the clip I saw on like TikTok. That shit's like heavy, man. That's just heavy. That's just fucked up, bro. Could you imagine, like, you know, if that happened to you and like someone molested your kids, and you know, that's obviously like if somebody molested my kids, I think I share the same sentiment as that you would kill those people, right? You would, or excuse me, you would. I don't want to be too explicit, but it would definitely motivate you to want to be, you know, get revenge. We'll say, I want to be a little more clean about that. And like, imagine getting that revenge, which I think is justifiable, just for you to be traumatized for the rest of your life because you took someone else's life that deserved it, in my opinion. You know, because it can't be easy to do that to somebody. You know, you'd really have to be like inhuman to be able to do something to, you know, somebody, even if they did a horrible thing to you, and it not sit with you for the rest of your life. That would mess you up forever, man. It's nuts. That's terrible.
You got away with it for a while.
For a long while until I turned myself in. We have a family friend that's very high up in the judicial, in the Senate, and she told my mom they're gonna kill him. You need to get him in, or they're gonna kill him. At that point, I didn't really care. I mean, I went through life with a lot of hard things. I lost my first wife and 2 kids to a car accident.
Damn.
That was in front of me.
Jesus Christ.
And every time I go to sleep, I have that dream or that nightmare, whatever you call it, whatever you want to call it. And my whole life has just been running away from it.
Bro, I honestly, I don't think I could. I don't think I could live if like my wife and kid passed away in a car accident, bro. I don't even know if I could live with myself if my wife now passed away. I'm not even kidding. Like that's crazy, man. I couldn't even imagine what this guy's going through. That's so horrible.
I've been real heavily into drugs, living on the streets, and I live well. It sounds funny, but I live well for being on the streets. I mean, it's like I've always wanted the better things in life, and I've stayed with them. Even though I don't have a place to live, or I live out of a tent, or to the next place, I've always been content with it. I guess because I have survivor's guilt.
How did you kill the 3 or 4 men?
I threw one off a 3rd-story balcony in front of SWAT.
Jesus.
And I shot the other 2. Well, one I electrocuted.
Jesus Christ.
Until he told me why he did it. And then I shot him.
What did he tell you?
He told me because I have everything. Because at the time, I had 2 kids. I had the job. I worked for a big management company in rock band management. I was a chef for them. I made $1 million a year.
Wow.
I had everything. You lose it in a split second.
That's fucking terrible.
Your whole
bro.
world changes by your outlook.
Bro, that's like the word. That's terrible. That's like the worst. That's terrible, bro. Jesus Christ. I don't even know how he copes with it, man. I could see why he seems to struggle with addiction because, bro, that's, I mean, that's an incredible amount of strength to me to go through all that and just I don't even think I could do it. That's
And after that,
that's
nothing
terrible,
mattered
bro.
anymore. This year has probably been the hardest year of my life. I've lost 12 family members and 3 children. I haven't really cared about anything too much this last past year.
I could feel
I
that,
dug
man.
myself in the hole of drugs. I've just started grieving for my children.
How long were you in prison
Off and on, 27 years.
for the murders?
For that, drugs. It seems like every time something's been there. To better my life, I just self-destructed myself.
Yeah, man. That's tough. I mean, this is the thing, because I know like a lot of people don't care about drug addicts, and it's like a lot of people just think that drug addicts are like bad people and blah blah blah. But like, bro, some people are going through some real shit like this guy, and like, wouldn't it be nice if we had more effective drug programs? You know, it would just be nice.
We can all think of reasons why or anything, but I've always had a high self-esteem of myself, but overall, if we really want to do something, we do it. There's nothing that stands in our way. Because I know I can do anything I want. Because this is the most powerful thing in the world, is your mind. As long as you believe, you therefore do.
Do you think there's something in your mind that makes you self-sabotage?
It's probably guilt of still living. I always thought it should have been me that died, not my kids. I guess it's a kind of survivor's guilt.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's what it sounds like.
I know it just day by day as I find out myself, figure out who I am more and more. It gets easier and easier. Now it's more than drugs, it's more adrenaline junkie. The drugs don't even get me high anymore. But the adrenaline junkie stuff does.
And what do you do for your adrenaline now?
Oh man, rob, steal, whatever.
Yeah.
The crazier the better.
Jesus Christ.
Stealing cars, the high-speed pursuits, the whatever, to walking in, grabbing something and walking out. Walking up into a restaurant and grabbing a plate of food and eating it on the way out while waving to the maitre d'. Just different things. I could tell you some wild stories about things that, like I said, it's sometimes out of a movie.
You're not worried about spending more time in jail or prison?
All of them are past statute of limitations. And the one things I've talked about, I've already done time for.
Mm-hmm. No, but I'm talking about like your adrenaline fixes. All your adrenaline pursuits aren't going to put you back in jail?
They could, but it doesn't matter. When you're a junkie like that, an adrenaline junkie like that, it doesn't matter. You just do it for the high.
Were you anything like this before your daughter? Was it daughter or son that was killed?
Daughters.
Daughters. 2 of them?
Well, total 5. I've had
5? Like 5 died? Or does he have more than just those 2? I wonder.
my wife and first 2 kids died in a car accident.
Right.
Then I had 3 children die this past year.
Jesus.
One in Afghanistan.
Wow.
One in a car accident, and
Damn, man.
one in a liquor store robbery gone bad.
My God.
She walked into a robbery and took 3 to the chest and 2 to the head while she was talking on the phone with me.
That's horrible.
Everyone close to you is
Yeah, it
died.
seems like. And
That's
my
terrible.
second wife died of cancer. It's like everywhere I turn, I have to deal with death.
I wish that he wouldn't have said that to the guy, because I feel like this guy might be holding in this idea that like he's cursed and he's causing these problems when it's obviously not true. That's horrible though, man. You know, so I would have wished that this guy didn't mention that, but he obviously didn't do it to be like poorly intentioned. But holy fuck, bro. Like I could not imagine. That's horrible. That really sits with you, bro. Like for me, mortality is becoming more of like an issue now. I'm thinking about it more and more, you know, as I get older. And especially after you get a little bit older, you get a little bit closer to like having health problems, you know, stuff like that. It really kind of puts things into a different perspective. When you fall in love, I know it's cringe, guys, but it's like a factor. It makes you really start to kind of rethink the way that you engage with your life. So like all this stuff is like so fucked. I couldn't imagine, man.
The way I deal with that is drugs.
What is your drug now?
Fentanyl.
Fentanyl. How old are you?
54 years old. I've spent more than half my life in jail.
What did all those years in a cell teach you, or how did it change you?
I mean, they teach you a lot. They teach you about yourself if you're really looking. Because all you have to do really is look. Because there's no time for anything else. I mean, yeah, you play cards, you bullshit with everybody else, but a lot of alone time there, a lot of me time. And you either use it for a reason or you just waste your time. And I chose to use it and figure out who I am and what I'm about. You know, and I have a pretty good, clear picture of it. And I learned why I do the things I do. It's like Sun Tzu's.
Well, clearly part of it's just like lacking, like not caring if he passes away. You know, like he doesn't have that restrictor there, or gets caught or goes back to jail, because he's probably so desensitized to it. Hell, it seems like you may not even really be able to function outside of jail, because of everything that's happened anyway. So he probably, maybe, I don't even know if he wants to go back, but it's probably not a deterrent at the very least. Bro, what a hard life, man. Damn.
Well, you know, in art of seduction and art of war, you know, you figure out how to manipulate the next person into doing the things you want them to do.
Yep.
Without them knowing, with them thinking it's them figuring it out.
That's so real, man. Because like this, I say this before, but drug addicts are people that are struggling, but also, unfortunately, a lot of them take advantage of the people around them, and especially people who love them. And it's a real thing, man. And like, you know, at least he's being honest about it. You know, a lot of times they'll lie to you, or maybe they tell you the truth and they mean it at the time, but it just doesn't pan out that way, you know? And it just kind of spirals. It's fucking terrible.
And I've learned myself. I've learned who I am, why I do the things I do. And it's not at all pretty at some of the times. But I've come to accept a lot of it because it's who I am. There's nothing I can do to change it. And if I worry about it, then it just ruins the rest of it.
Were you a different man before your first marriage?
I owned my first restaurant at 14.
Really?
I worked my ass off all through my childhood. And I thought I was going to be one of the bigger ones in life. Now I'm just a ghetto fabulous.
What restaurant could you own at 13? I mean, he was a lot. He's older now, so times were different, but I just wonder.
You know, I dress well most of the time. I eat well most of the time. And I do a lot of drugs most of the time. I have a lot of women all the time. You know.
Hey, top G, am I right?
Times that you just kind of cave in within yourself. And you just go off into your own world. You might spend a week or two there and snap out of it and move on. You know, I've never worried about money. It's always been there when I needed it.
What's your biggest fear now?
Growing old alone.
Real shit,
That's
brother.
probably my biggest fear.
Real shit.
I don't
You probably got first time watching your stream live. Also watch all your videos though. Much love. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's so heavy, man.
I hate being alone.
Yeah.
I'd be in a room of 100 people and I'm still alone.
Bro, it's one of the worst things about. I'm sorry if this is gonna like it comes off cringe or whatever, but one of the worst things about falling in love is that you can't like unlearn how to be in love. It's really it's such a powerful thing and so positive, and you should all chase it. But like, I don't like if I lost my wife, bro. Like, I don't think I could never be happy again. I would never be able to feel comforted again. I don't think I'd ever be able to like bond with anybody else ever again. Like, I wouldn't be able to function. I just wouldn't be able to just exist. It's so terrible, and I feel like that's part of what's happened here, man. He's known like love with his wife, and she passed away, and his kids are passing away, and it's like, what do you like? You really can't be vulnerable with anybody like you could be vulnerable with like your spouse or your partner. It's such a terrible thing, and when you learn to like when you find somebody and you learn to be vulnerable with them, you just can't unlearn it, bro. This is devastating. It's devastating. It's one of the things. It's like Louis C.K. has a very kind of a funny joke. He's like, if you get married, one of two things happens. Either it goes poor, like terribly, you have a terrible, ugly divorce, and you're miserable in that capacity, or you have an amazing, beautiful life together, and then one of you dies, and the other one's just miserable for the rest of your life. There's and that's a very cynical view because nothing brings me more joy than just existing with my wife. Like today, we took a long nap. That's why I'm on so late, and it was just nice to be around her. I mean, proximity of her and stuff. And fuck, man, this would fuck me up so bad. What a terrible experience, dude. It's terrible.
That's how I feel. And nowadays, everybody's about themselves. They stab each other in the back and steal from each other and think they're going to make money and come up when they can't do that, stealing from each other. Everybody needs to help each other, or it's just a waste of time.
If you had your life to live all over again, what would you have done differently?
That's not even a question we can answer. Because if we would have done it differently, we would have done it then.
Yeah.
Knowing what I know now, a whole lot of things. But if you put me in the same spot, in the same position, I'm going to make the same choices. Mm-hmm. I mean, our life.
Yeah, it's like truth to that. Like a lot of people are like, what if you can go back and change something? What would you do? But it's like if you went back, you would lose your memory of what's happening. So like, would you really change a lot? You wouldn't have anything to change. You wouldn't realize what you needed to change.
Built on patterns. We're a culture of pattern. So we do the same things. History repeats itself all the time. So it should tell you the answer right there.
What's your biggest regret?
Not spending time with my kids. Choosing drugs and that way of life over my kids. Not having that joy.
When did drugs come into your life?
I've been a biker my whole life, and it's been around me, drugs. And I've watched cooks of methamphetamine when I was a kid. I did my first cook at 6. And
Jesus. It's so hard to figure out like what the trajectory of his life is, because he talks about how like he was fortunate growing up, and about how he had like a lot of opportunities for him, and then he talks about how he's been like cooking meth since he was 6, and it's like what is what. Oh my god, I just got distracted. Like what's really going on?
From there, even though I didn't do them, the chemicals and the chemicals that were always around, and the high from those chemicals. Now that's the best high you ever have.
Do you have any friends?
Very few left. You know, everybody calls everybody their friend, and they're not. They're just acquaintances. I have a couple I view as my friends. That's about it.
What gives your life meaning now that all this has passed and you're in this situation?
That's my problem. Right now, it doesn't have any meaning. I'm just coming at it. I'm just starting to grieve for my children. And it's just now all coming into my head. Right now, I'm just living for the next high.
Yeah.
What was your favorite memory in your life?
Keep dying here. You annoyed?
It's hard, but probably my first kid's birth. My first ones and my last ones. It's the best memory of my life.
Silento became a member.
Hey, thank you so much for the small gut, brother. I appreciate that.
Tell me about survivor's guilt. That's certainly, you can rationalize that it wasn't your fault, but I understand that.
You can think till you're blue in the face, but when you think that guilt's there, it's there. It doesn't matter how clear cut it is that it's not your fault. When you feel it, you feel it. And there's nothing is gonna change that. Nobody's gonna tell you different. It's just always gonna be there, and you beat yourself up constantly over it.
Is that the biggest emotion that you deal with now at this point?
Biggest emotion I'm dealing with is accepting my 3 kids dying. It was hard. I think that was the hardest hit I've ever taken in my life. And I've kept it all in for the last year. I've only cried once for it. Twice now, but once for it. I cried for 24 hours, almost.
Damn.
Those motel people probably hated me. The bed was soaked. I didn't know I had that much liquid in me.
You've lost how many? 5 kids?
5 kids.
I wonder, like, how come he was in a hotel room? You know, like I'm so curious about where, like, some of this information starts and ends, you know? Because I believe his overall story, but there are just so many things that are inconsistent and, like, hard for me to understand. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of, like, bizarre inconsistencies in different ways, and I'm just trying to understand, like, where the, I guess you'd say, like, where the truth is to an extent. Not to be an asshole or anything, but it's hard to kind of understand, you know?
And 2 wives.
Yes. One to a car accident, one to cancer. That was one of the hardest things I watched too. I watched her for 2 years shrivel up.
Yep. It's terrible. Remember my uncle, before he passed, he was talking about how, like, you know, I believe my grandfather, I forget which one was which. I was very young, but one of his parents, you know, passed very quickly and one passed very slowly, and it was almost relieving when the one passed quickly, because you don't really see that person degrade, you know? And it becomes very hard sometimes to, like, remember that person as they are. And it's like a terrible, like, it's such a terrible concept, but it's such a real thing, you know? It's such a real thing.
After everything you've been through, what have you learned about life?
It certainly sucks a lot of the time.
Is there any unique perspective you have on?
I mean, life is what we make it, really. I mean, we're not any better than the next man. We might think we are, and we might be better equipped for some things and not for others. But in the end, we need to find those people that fill our gaps. Those are the happiest times in life. It's with that person, with your kids, with your real friends. I just think this world's fucked up right now, and they're too selfish.
Probably always been, you know?
Nobody knows which way is left and which way is right. And they blame everybody else for their problems. instead of looking in the mirror. Because in the end, it's the only person you have to blame. Everything else is just garbage. It's all.
Yeah, blaming others is not going to fix anything.
No, it's never in the problem, too. We need to start figuring out solutions, not problems. We have enough of those.
You've gotten used to living on the streets?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. It's been rough this last month. But I've taken a lot of hits. A lot of people stolen a lot of things from me.
Yeah, man, that happens a lot on the streets. Like, you just kind of, or with you're homeless, you just kind of fall asleep and people just start stealing shit off you.
And I can't seem to get up on top of it. But it's starting to get a little clearer and a little better.
By the way, thank you for the message. It didn't play on the thing, but the resub, Devin. It says W resub by watch your videos on break on my repair job. I appreciate that. Obviously, the tone of the stream is a little different. Sorry, I'm not more excited. It's a little, this video is like fucking me up a little bit. I've had people close to me pass both slow through disease and fast through without knowing it was going to happen. Personally, it was easier for me to grieve when I knew it was coming. I can understand that too. You get to say your goodbyes and whatnot. That helps. It helps a lot. I understand that.
So we shall see.
Do you think you'll spend the rest of your life on the streets, or do you think you'll get back into your own?
I'll get back into my home, into my way of life. It's just that
Recovering from all your setbacks is...
Yeah, and I've never taken advantage of all these things that the government's at, because it's just from other people giving, taxes, all that shit. I just never really felt like I deserved it.
Damn. I feel that. Too much pride to take advantage of like opportunities that like the government provides to help his life get better because he doesn't feel like he deserves it. Damn. Some real shit, brother.
And then someone frauded my EDD, and every time I clear that up to get it back, it comes back to fraud one. So it's like, it looks like I'm not going to get that money, and EDD is about to end, and that's $40-something thousand I could use to get back on my feet, and it keeps getting frauded and frauded and frauded.
Oh, I wonder why that's happening.
And I call them up, and you sent me the fraud one again. Oh, we won't do that again. Take off my information down and get everything ready, and here comes the card again, and it's under the fraud name.
I don't know what that means. I wonder if there's something else going on.
The stimulus I never got because it was under the fraud name, and someone did my taxes.
What is the fraud? Did somebody steal his like social security number or something? Is that what he's talking about?
Tried to do my taxes. It's just crazy. It's one thing after another.
It's hard to tell how much of this is like true. Like, I think that everything that happened, the big events definitely happened. It's hard to tell like the little things. It sounds like he might be like a little bit misrepresenting some stuff. I'm not calling him like a bad person or anything. Yeah, I probably would too if I lived on the fucking streets, but...
Do you feel like you have some dark cloud hanging over you, or is this just some bad luck you had as later in your life?
Dark cloud, dark sky. Cloud wouldn't be big enough. Cloud definitely wouldn't be big enough.
It was that way as a child too?
No, my childhood was great. I mean, like I said, I had most of everything I needed, most of what I wanted. I don't know, I'm just putting one foot in front of the other and seeing where life takes me. I'm not focusing too much on one place, because who knows where everything's so false nowadays. People...
It's interesting because I feel like everything's been pretty false, but I guess with the rise of social media, things become more false. It actually is like crazy to fully understand the grasp of how fake social media is, so through and through in so many different ways. And I mean, I don't know if that's his experience, so probably I'm projecting a little bit, but when it comes to the portrayal of your life on social, you were all doing it too. People will portray the happiest moments on their social media. Of course, you want people to think you're happy. You don't want to be vulnerable. And then it shows other people the best of you. and they don't see the worst of you, and it sets these unrealistic expectations up to them. And it's especially worse when you have these big content creators doing it, like famous people always showing you the best, always showing you the best. And then there's times where people will show you some of the worst, and that could be a really good experience for everybody until they start doing it so much it becomes performative. And then there's people who create content, and they're solid content creators that come up with a topic, and they do really well on that topic, and then they want to do that topic again. But if that topic is something controversial, you know, they try to sensationalize that topic. And all of a sudden, you know, you go from catching somebody who might be a bad guy who did a really bad thing to trying to make it seem like the next guy who's not so bad is just as bad as that person. People wanted me to do that with like Gemini Official and like Tony Lopez, and Gemini Official like actually got kicked out of his school for, you know, sexual battery and actually assaulted a TikToker and whatnot. And they wanted me to have that same energy for like Tony Lopez because he talked to a 16-year-old at 20. You know, not ideal, but like, you know, but some people go into it. They start making that disproportionate content, and then the sphere happens, and it gets crazy. And then a lot of the internet's run by 15-year-old kids on Twitter, whether they're the edgy kids or whether they're the SJWs, and you have adults who overly affirm how they feel about things, and we have a fucking crazy world, man. It's crazy.
Believe anything that is put in front of them, I guess, for the ease of just believing it.
Yeah, and then you got memes on fucking Instagram and Facebook that old people buy into for election fraud. You know? There's so many fake ways that the world works, man. It's probably always been like this to an extent or in some capacity, but I guess we're just living in the new age of it. It's not as normal. Man.
Because life is not that easy. It's simple, but it's not that easy.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, Tim. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Wish you the best of luck out there.
You too.
Thank you.
Wow, what a video, man! Those videos are always so intense, man. You're really looking into some of like the most difficult parts of the world. You deleted Instagram recently, and you feel better. I could see that, man. I could definitely understand that. You know, deleting social media can really help you a lot.
I want Papa God to pee on my face, but just as a friend. There's nothing weird about that. I want him to pee on my face.